So you've done it. You spent all this time, maybe weeks, maybe even months, building this absolutely perfect website. You launch it, and you're waiting for the traffic to roll in, but all you hear is crickets. You go to Google, you type in your name, and nothing. It's just gone. It is honestly one of the most frustrating feelings in the world. Today, we're going to dig into exactly why that happens, and way more importantly, what you can actually do about it. I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? You've got the awesome design, the killer content, your products are ready to go, but if Google doesn't know you exist, then for pretty much all of your potential customers, you might as well not exist at all. It really feels like you've built this beautiful, shiny store right in the middle of a desert, but you forgot to build any roads leading to it. So how do we build those roads? Here is our game plan for building those roads. First, we're going to define what this invisibility problem actually is. Then, we'll put on our detective hats and figure out the technical reasons Google is ignoring you. After that, we'll get practical with a step-by-step checklist, look at what it takes to put that plan into action, and finally, we'll wrap up by setting some real honest expectations for this whole journey. Okay, first up, let's make sure we're all on the same page with the lingo. The real root of this whole invisibility thing is a problem with indexing. Just think of Google as this enormous, gigantic library of the entire internet. Now, for your website to show up in any searches, Google has to find your pages first, understand them, and then add them to its library. That whole process, that's called indexing. And believe me, the stakes here are incredibly high. If your website isn't in Google's library, nobody can check it out. It's really that simple. No indexing means zero visibility, which means zero organic traffic. All that hard work you put in just stays hidden because that essential connection between your site and the biggest search engine in the world is just broken.
So, why does that connection break? Well, more often than not, the bad guys in this story are technical roadblocks. These are tiny, often completely invisible errors in your site's code or its structure, and they basically act like big do not enter signs that either confuse Google's little web crawlers or worse, send them down a dead end.
And what's kind of wild is just how common these blockers are. You might have something called a no index tag that was accidentally left on an important page. That's literally a sign that tells Google, hey, nothing to see here, move along. Other usual suspects are things like canonical mistakes, broken redirects that just lead nowhere, or even simple errors in your sitemap. The good news? Every single one of these is fixable. Let's just zoom in on that canonical thing for a second, because it's a big one. Imagine you have two pages that are basically identical. A canonical tag is your way of telling Google, hey, listen up, this one over here is the original, the master copy. You can just ignore that other one. Now, if you get this wrong or you don't use one at all, Google just gets confused. It might index the wrong page or even penalize you for having duplicate content, which hides the very page you want people to find. All right, enough about the problems, let's talk about the solutions. Getting your site visible isn't about finding some magic button you can press. It's about a methodical, step-by-step process. I like to think of it like a pilot's pre-flight checklist for your website, making sure everything is good to go for takeoff on Google. And the process builds on itself, logically, right from the ground up. You start with the foundation, getting Google's Search Console set up, which is basically your direct line of communication with Google. Then, you give Google a clear map, that's your sitemap, and a set of rules and a little file called robots.txt. This file just tells Google's crawlers where they should and shouldn't go. From there, you go in and you remove all those blockers we just talked about, clean up your internal links, make sure your content is in good shape, and finally, you monitor everything to make sure it's all actually working.
Now, going through that checklist, well, it can mean very different things depending on your website. For a pretty small site, the fix might be fairly straightforward. But if you have a huge, complex site with thousands and thousands of pages, the scope of the work can be much, much bigger. This is definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of solution.
This chart does a really good job of breaking down what that can look like. For some people, a simple indexing audit is all you need. It's a diagnosis. We find the problems and make a plan. For others, it might take a full indexing fix, where we actively go in and implement all those changes. And for really massive websites, it can be a full-on large site recovery, which means digging super deep into all the complex issues to really optimize how Google even crawls your site. And that brings us to a really, really crucial point. We got to manage our expectations here. When you are dealing with an algorithm as complicated as Google's, you have to be realistic. There are no instant fixes or magic guarantees. And let's be crystal clear about this. If anyone ever promises you that they can get 100% of your pages indexed overnight, they are selling you a fantasy. A proper technical setup is not a magic trick. What it is a systematic way of removing all the obstacles and making it as easy as possible for Google to find your stuff. And that is what dramatically improves your chances and the speed of getting indexed. And, that really is the key takeaway. The goal here isn't about forcing Google to index every single page you have. It's about clearing the road for your most valuable content, the pages that actually drive your business, the pages with your best information. You want those to be found, indexed, and eventually ranked. You're basically helping Google focus on what really matters on your site. So I'm going to leave you with this one question to think about. Your website's technical structure, it's like a story you're telling to Google's crawlers. It tells them which pages are important, how they're all connected, and which ones they can probably ignore. So the question is your website telling Google the right story, or is it sending a bunch of confusing signals that are leaving all your best content totally lost in the library?